Welcome to the second annual Virtual Forum on Social Innovation, brought to you by Duke University's Innovation and Entrepreneurship, INE Group, UNICEF and the U.S. Fund for UNICEF. Thank you for joining us. We have people logged on from all over the world, and we are excited you are here with us. I am Selwyn Razor. I am an INE Advisory Board member at Duke and a regional board member of the U.S. Fund for UNICEF. It is an honor to welcome you and a privilege to introduce you to this event. The forum is a week-long event kicking off today that is full of inspiring programming, celebrating the intersection of social innovation and progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. This year's conference is focused specifically on SDG 6, which aims to ensure the availability and sustainability management of water, sanitation for all by 2030. SDG 6 is also the focus of the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator, which is a social impact accelerator housed at Duke, working in close partnership with UNICEF. The accelerator selects promising global social entrepreneurs and helps them gain the knowledge, the tools, and the networks necessary to improve the lives of children around the world through groundbreaking innovation. In its second year, the accelerator now supports the growth and scale of 13 social enterprises across Africa, solving critical water and sanitation issues. The accelerator draws on some of Duke's and UNICEF's greatest strengths. With Duke's extensive experience in social entrepreneurship, research, and education, and their experience leading incubators and accelerators for commercial and social ventures, Duke is well equipped to teach and prepare the next generation of changemakers. UNICEF has a long history of innovating for children with an unsurpassed global reach. In fact, this year is UNICEF's 75th anniversary doing just this. Together, the partnership will bring together innovators, leaders, and scholars to engage in work that changes people's lives for the better. Today and throughout the week, you will hear directly from the Accelerator's innovators alongside field experts from UNICEF, NGOs, and social enterprises, all discussing the progress towards SDG 6 and the work that still needs to be done. To help set the stage for the rest of the week's conversation, we are fortunate to be joined by an expert on the world's advancement towards universal access to WASH and the reduction of inequalities, Mr. Tom Slaymaker, from the World Health Organization and UNICEF Joint Monitoring Programme for Water Supply, Sanitation, and Hygiene, JMP. But before we welcome our keynote speaker, Kellyanne Naylor, UNICEF's Associate Director for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene, WASH, and the next UN Water Vice Chair, will kick off this incredible event. Ms. Naylor has over 20 years of experience in the WASH sector, managing urban, peri-urban, and rural water, sanitation, and hygiene programs in Central Africa, South Asia, Latin America, the Caribbean, and even North America. Ms. Naylor is not able to join us in person, but she has graciously recorded a video. Please enjoy your week, and here she is.
I'm away today, and I'm so sorry I'm not able to join you in person, but it's a great pleasure to be with you today by video and kicking off this week of events for the second virtual forum on social innovation. A warm welcome to everyone that's here today and who's going to be joining events this week, whether you're entrepreneurs and innovators, staff of Duke and UNICEF, or our program partners and supporters. We're particularly pleased to have the young changemakers joining us from East Asia and the Pacific region and contributing to the event this week. Welcome. In a minute, we're going to hear from Tom at the Joint Monitoring Programme about the state of global progress towards Sustainable Development Goal 6 and see that while great progress has been made, huge gaps remain. We're already more than 5 years into the SDGs, and the world is not on track to achieve the targets for water, sanitation, and hygiene. Achieving universal coverage by 2030 is no small feat, and it will require quadrupling our current rates of progress in safely managed sanitation, drinking water, and basic hygiene services. Least developed countries have the furthest to go, and it will be particularly challenging to accelerate progress in fragile contexts. Many more countries are also facing challenges in extending services to rural areas and to poor and vulnerable populations who are most at risk of being left behind, particularly women and girls who are disproportionately affected by a lack of safe water, sanitation, and hygiene services. Reaching SDG 6 is going to require acceleration in several areas. Governments, the private sector, and citizens all have a significant role to play. The WASH sector will also need financing, human resources, capacity, innovative approaches, political commitment, and strategic partnerships to make this shift happen. So we think that the Duke University Innovation Accelerator is part of the solution. And for UNICEF, this partnership with Duke really brings together three important areas of acceleration that are in our new strategic plan. The first one is innovation. Fostering innovation and programming for children is one of the key change strategies that UNICEF is using to achieve social change. The second is engaging with the private sector. For WASH, many goods and services are delivered by the private sector, such as households installing their own toilets, paying water bills, or buying soap and menstrual hygiene materials. But the financing gap is huge. We need to maximize investment from the private sector and to stimulate and accelerate increased household investments in WASH. Children will also benefit when there's a thriving private sector that provides quality products and services that are more desirable, more convenient, more accessible, and more affordable. The third element is partnership, and partnerships are at the heart of everything that UNICEF does, allowing the organization to expand its reach and influence and to leverage resources to advance our universal mandate for children. This unique partnership with Duke's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center combines the power of Duke's global expertise and knowledge in innovation and scaling with UNICEF's WASH expertise and extensive network of WASH programs in over 100 countries. While working to support these innovations, UNICEF is simultaneously working with governments around the world to help strengthen the enabling environment for WASH, including policies, financing, capacity that all help shape markets to make it easier for the private sector and households to invest in improved and sustainable services. Through the accelerator curriculum, both cohorts have been through a gauntlet of skill-building webinars, exercises, and coaching sessions to create their plans for how to scale their social impact across Africa. Now in its second year, we're excited to see how the program has supported the first cohort who will graduate on Tuesday. We continue to be inspired by the innovators and entrepreneurs and their dedication, creativity, and commitment to create change for children in their countries and beyond. Together, the innovators in this acceleration program have reached over 5 million customers with WASH products and services. We look forward to leveraging Duke and UNICEF's combined expertise and networks to further scale the reach and impact of our innovators. And all of this is with one common goal: improve the lives of children around the world for this generation and for all the generations to come. Thank you, and I wish you a fruitful and exciting week ahead. I'm away.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Nash, and I'm the Managing Director for Social Innovation here at Duke's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Initiative. I am also a adjunct professor of the practice at the Sanford School of Public Policy and a co-founder of the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator. So appreciative of Kellyanne's talk with us this morning. I mean, she is a force for change within UNICEF. We're so thrilled to be a partner with her and her team. And I'm so excited to say that we have an amazing keynote speaker lined up for you this morning or this afternoon or evening, wherever you're found. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Tom Slaymaker. Tom is the Senior Statistics and Monitoring Specialist at UNICEF headquarters in New York, with 20 years of experience working on water and sanitation in Africa and Asia. And he currently co-leads the WHO UNICEF Joint Monitoring Programme for water supply, sanitation, and hygiene. And I don't know anyone else who's more qualified than Tom to tell us the real story of progress on SDG 6. And so we're so thrilled to have him here. So Tom, welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much, Matt, for that introduction, and hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak. I'm just going to pull up my presentation and check that everybody can see that. Okay, so as Matt said, we are a joint monitoring program between UNICEF and WHO. We are responsible for global monitoring of progress on WASH, and we look at WASH in households, schools, and healthcare facilities. We produce estimates, updated estimates every 2 years for each setting. So we produced reports for households in 2017, 2019, and most recently this year in 2021. And we've produced reports on schools and healthcare facilities in 2020. But for today, I'm going to focus mainly on households. And this was the report that came out in July of this year. Updated estimates for 234 countries, areas, and territories around the world. We're drawing on about 7,000 national data sets, of which we used over 4,000 in the report. You can see there are many more national data sets available for drinking water and for sanitation, over 3,000 each, than there are for hygiene, just about 200. And we have these new data that are starting to come in now on menstrual health and hygiene, which is a new topic for global monitoring. So I'm also going to briefly touch on those. But the headline finding from this report, which Kelly mentioned, was that at current rates of progress, we're not going to achieve the SDG global targets for drinking water, for sanitation, or for hygiene. And in order to get there, we need to effectively quadruple current rates of progress. So these charts are showing you progress between 2015 and 2020. What will happen if we continue at current rates of change, and the acceleration required to get to 100% or universal coverage by 2030. So for drinking water, the light blue there is basic services. And for basic services, we need to double current rates of progress. And the dark blue is showing safely managed services, which is the SDG global indicator. And for that, we need to quadruple current rates of progress. Similarly, for sanitation, a doubling of rates of progress on basic services and a quadrupling to reach the target for safely managed services. And lastly, for basic hygiene services, we've made steady progress since 2015, but still at current rates of progress, we're only going to reach around 78% by 2030. So briefly touching on drinking water, and then I'm going to go into more detail on sanitation, hygiene, and menstrual health. For drinking water, this global indicator is the proportion of the population using safely managed drinking water services. This is a new rung at the top of the ladder, which we use for global monitoring of drinking water services. Safely managed means use of an improved water source that is accessible on premises, available when needed, and free from contamination. And these are new indicators that have been introduced for SDG monitoring at the global level. And we've been trying to report on them for as many countries as possible. In our last report, we were able to produce estimates for 138 countries. So these are representing around 45% of the global population. But you can see there's a lot of gray on this map. And that's because we don't have sufficient data to make estimates for large parts of the world, including some of the biggest countries such as India and China. But the data we do have show us that globally, if you look at the right-hand side of this chart, we've seen steady progress on safely managed drinking water, rising from 70% in 2015 to 74% in 2020. But that means that we still have 1 in 4 people lacking safely managed drinking water services. And you can also see there's a huge variation across the different regions of the world. So ranging from 96% there in Europe and North America, and over on the left-hand side, just 30% in sub-Saharan Africa. So huge inequalities. But moving on to sanitation, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here because I know this is a major focus of the Innovation Forum. So again, we have a ladder, a service ladder that we use to monitor progress on sanitation. So we track the population practicing open defecation, which means they have no facility at all, and the population using improved facilities, which are providing some sort of separation of excreta from human contact. But if that facility is shared with other households, we call it a limited service. If it's a private facility that's not shared, it counts as a basic service. But in order to meet the criteria for the SDG Global Indicator for safely managed sanitation services, we need information on what is happening to the excreta that are produced. So if you have a sewer connection, it needs to be transported through the sewer to a wastewater treatment plant. If you have a septic tank or a pit latrine or some sort of on-site sanitation system, then it either needs to be treated in situ or it needs to be periodically emptied, and then the excreta will be removed and treated off-site. So those are the three possible routes to safely managed sanitation services on the right-hand side there. We had 120 countries with estimates for safely managed services in 2020, and again, you can see huge variation here across the different countries of the world, from less than 25% in parts of sub-Saharan Africa up to over 99% or near universal coverage in a small number of countries. We also see big variation across the different regions of the world, ranging from sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, up to Australia and New Zealand. And what this means is that globally, coverage has increased from 47% in 2015 to 54% in 2020. So only just over half of the global population with safely managed sanitation services in 2020. And still a very long way to go then to meet the target of universal coverage by 2030. At current rates of progress, the world will only reach around 67%. You can see at the top there, Australia and New Zealand, Europe and Northern America are much closer to universal coverage, but rates of progress are still not sufficient. And way down at the bottom there, sub-Saharan Africa, currently only 21%, and in 2030 at current rates of progress will still be only 24%. So less than 1 in 4 people in sub-Saharan Africa will have access to safely managed services by 2030, unless current rates of progress accelerate. The interesting question with sanitation is the distribution of sewer connections and on-site sanitation. And you can see that globally, we have a roughly equal proportion now, with sewer connections, 43%, and with septic tanks and pit latrines, 43%. But it varies enormously between urban and rural and between the different regions of the world. And this is very important because the distribution of sewer connections and on-site systems will determine the future trajectories in terms of safe management of sanitation facilities. And we also have some data on what is happening to both the on-site systems and the excreta that is transported through the sewers. And what we're finding is that many of these septic tanks and pit latrines are actually never emptied. And this is especially the case in rural areas. So here the key is to find out how many of these are effectively containing and treating wastes, and how many of them are presenting a risk to human health. But in urban areas, we find that they're much more likely to be emptied, and their excreta are more likely to be removed off-site for treatment. So the question there is, what is happening to that waste? Where's it going? Is it reaching treatment, or is it being unsafely discharged into the community? And for wastewater, very big variation across the different regions and even between countries within regions in the proportion of the population with sewer connections where the wastewater is actually being treated. And this is a very interesting area for us to pursue in terms of understanding what is the type of treatment that is being provided? What is the level of treatment? And is that sufficient to protect human health, but also environmental health, which is an important consideration under SDG 6. We shouldn't forget that we still have 55 countries where more than 5% of the population are practicing open defecation. Those are increasingly concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa in particular, and in South Asia. But in some of those countries, we still have over 50% of the population who don't even use a basic toilet. They're defecating in the fields and bushes and ditches and so on. So this remains a key priority, changing behaviors, raising awareness, enabling people to build a basic toilet before we even think about the high levels of service required to meet the SDG target. And we also see enormous inequalities. So this is the case of Madagascar. And you can see here the differences between different countries in sub-Saharan Africa. You can see that Madagascar has a relatively high rate of open defecation, so 42%. But within Madagascar, there's a big difference between rural areas, 54%, and urban areas, 24%. There's a huge difference between the richest and the poorest. So amongst the richest, just 5% practicing open defecation, but amongst the poorest, it's 67%. And then if you look at the subnational regions within Madagascar, even bigger differences in terms of rates of open defecation. So it's very important to understand where the problems are, where the greatest needs are, in order to be able to target interventions effectively. So turning to hygiene, again, we have a service ladder that we use to monitor progress on hygiene. But this is relatively simple compared with drinking water and sanitation. So we monitor the proportion of the population with no hand washing facility at all. But if households have a hand washing facility that is lacking either soap or water, then we would call that a limited facility. And if they have a hand washing facility with soap and water available at home, then that counts as a basic hygiene service. Now, when we talk about hand washing facilities, we're interested in facilities that could be in the dwelling or in the yard or plot. They could be a fixed facility, such as a sink with a tap, or they could be a mobile facility, such as a bucket or a tippy tap or a jug or a basin or some other designated facility for hand washing. Soap would include bar soap or liquid soap or detergent or even soapy water, but it doesn't include traditional hand washing materials such as ash or soil or sand, which is sometimes used in the absence of soap. So in our last report, we had estimates for 79 countries on basic hygiene services. And these tend to be much more widely available for low and middle income countries. This is not something that is regularly monitored in high income countries. But we do have very good data for sub-Saharan Africa, for South Asia, Southeast Asia. And here we can see enormous variations in hand hygiene. And of course, with the COVID-19 global pandemic, there's been increased attention to the importance of hand hygiene and hand washing with soap and water. But still, there are relatively few data that will help us to understand what the current situation is, what the trends are, and what we need to do in order to improve the situation going forward. We were able to make global estimates. So you can see that globally, on the right-hand side here, coverage of basic hygiene services has increased from 67 to 71% since 2015. But you can see enormous variation amongst the 4 SDG regions for which we have estimates ranging from just 26% in sub-Saharan Africa, 36% in Oceania, up to around 91% in Northern Africa and Western Asia. And in the least developed countries, there you can see just over a third of the population with a basic hand washing facility with soap and water available at home. It's more difficult to track trends in basic hygiene services because there are fewer data available, fewer data points. But for those regions where we do have trend estimates, we can see that only one of those regions is currently on track to get to universal coverage greater than 99% by 2030. And Oceania and Sub-Saharan Africa, a very, very long way to go. The data we have do reveal an interesting picture about the populations using fixed and mobile facilities. Some countries are only counting fixed facilities, others are counting fixed and mobile, and in some cases we don't know whether they are fixed or mobile, but they're both equally important and valid ways of effectively washing hands. And so we need better information on the types of facilities people are using, those that are more affordable, and those which will enable households, especially poor households, to be able to wash their hands. We also looked at whether there was a relationship with having access to drinking water on premises and having basic hygiene services. And this graph shows that actually the relationship is not that clear. So there are examples such as Bolivia here, where very high proportion have water on premises, but a very low proportion have a basic hand washing facility with soap and water. We also find the reverse in Mongolia, very low proportion with water on premises, very high proportion with basic hygiene services. And so it's not just about access to water, it's about access to soap, and it's about changing behaviors. And so there could be many barriers to improving hand hygiene. Lastly, I want to turn briefly to menstrual health and hygiene, which is a relatively new area for global monitoring. These are data which are collected through household surveys and questionnaires which are asked to women and girls aged 15 to 49. We have data emerging on awareness of menstruation before first period. We have 2 countries with data on that. Data on the use of materials, data on whether women and girls have access to a private place to wash and change while at home, and also information on participation in different activities during menstruation, such as whether women and girls go to school or work or participate in other social activities during their period. So we have data for 42 countries. Nearly half of those are in sub-Saharan Africa. Very few high-income countries collecting these kinds of indicators. But they tell a very interesting story. So these 2 countries, Egypt and Bangladesh, that had information on awareness, you can see only 32% of the population in Bangladesh and only 66% in Egypt knew about menstruation before their first period. You can see big differences between urban and rural in Egypt, amongst the different age groups, but also between rich and poor, and particularly in Egypt there between those with and without disabilities. So those with disabilities much less likely to be aware of menstruation before first period. The information we have on the use of materials and access to a private place and wash and change shows that use of materials is quite high in most of the countries with data available. But there are a number of countries where access to a private place to wash and change is much lower. So for example, here in Niger, Tunisia, Burkina Faso, 52%, 56% and 74% of women and girls with a private place to wash and change. And lastly, on participation. So these are questions that are asked in a household survey about whether women and girls are participating in different types of activities during their last period. And we can see patterns and differences between urban and rural, between the richest and poorest, and between those with and without disabilities. And there's not a clear difference between urban and rural, but in some countries, the differences are quite large. Amongst wealth quintiles, we have examples of where the poorest are less likely to participate, but also examples of where the richest are less likely to participate, because it's partly about culture and stigma and beliefs around menstruation. But there is a clear pattern for disability, and we see very clearly in many of these countries, women with a disability were half as likely to participate as those without. But this is not just about exclusion. It could be about a lack of resources at work or in school. It could also be about personal choices and choosing not to go to school or not to go to work during menstruation. So this is a very complex area. It's something we want to explore further, but we're interested in understanding behaviours and changing social norms to reduce and remove stigma associated with menstruation. So the big picture that I want to leave you with is that globally we've seen tremendous progress since 2000. If we look back, billions of people have gained access since 2000. 2 billion people gaining access to safely managed drinking water services, 2.4 billion gaining access to safely managed sanitation services, and 500 million gaining access to basic hygiene services since 2015. So a lot of change, a lot of growth. You can see the global population over that period has also increased quite dramatically. And in many countries, it's about keeping up with that rapid growth, especially in urban areas, as well as extending services to those who remain unserved. But we do have some big data gaps, and I wanted to highlight these as well, because I think this is where a lot of the focus of innovation needs to be. I mentioned drinking water. And here you can see the number of countries for which we have data and also the percentage of the population for which data are available. And so those highlighted in yellow are the ones where we have data for less than 50% of the population. So globally, we have data on drinking water quality, the proportion of population using supplies which are free from contamination for less than 50% of the population, just 45%. And that's because, as I mentioned before, we still lack data for a number of big countries, but that's still a big data gap. For sanitation, the biggest data gap is around information on what is happening to excreta from on-site sanitation systems. So what is happening to the excreta from septic tanks and pit latrines when they fill up? Are they effectively containing waste? Are they treating waste? Or are they presenting a risk? And when they are emptied, where does that waste go? Is it reaching treatment? If so, what type, what level of treatment is it receiving? And of course, for hygiene, we still only have data for a small number of regions and countries around the world. A lot of data gaps, especially for high-income countries. And of course, hand hygiene is equally important in middle and high-income countries as it is in low-income countries. So that was my presentation on households, but I did want to just put up 2 more slides to refer to what we know about schools and healthcare facilities. We produced global reports on both of those settings last year in 2020, and these were the headline findings. These are our data for WASH in schools. For drinking water, sanitation and hygiene, we have very similar ladders to those that we use for households. And you can see steady progress, but still in 2019, we only had 69% coverage of basic drinking water services, 63% coverage of basic sanitation services, and 57% coverage of basic hygiene services in schools. So what that means is we still have millions of children around the world who lack basic wash facilities in their schools. And what we've been trying to do is to draw attention to that, particularly in the light of COVID, of the need to upgrade facilities in order to make sure they are safe to reopen, in order to get children back into school and ensure that they can continue to learn safely. And last but certainly not least, we've produced estimates of progress on WASH in healthcare facilities. Here we're not just looking at access to water and sanitation and hand hygiene, but also healthcare waste management and environmental cleaning, which is closely linked to infection prevention and control, which is super important in the context of trying to improve the quality of healthcare and also in the context of the response to the global pandemic. If you look at the data that we have for the least developed countries, you can see just 50% with a basic water service, just 37% of healthcare facilities with a basic sanitation service, and just 30% with basic healthcare waste management services. So very low levels of WASH services in healthcare facilities, especially in the least developed countries. And this needs to be a major focus of efforts to build back better and ensure that people and children in these countries are better protected, better able to withstand shocks and future pandemics. I'm going to leave it there. That's a lot of information in a short space of time, but hopefully it has given you a framing of some of the key concepts around SDG 6 monitoring and where we are on some of those global indicators based on the data that are currently available. Matt, back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tom. Wow, that was just a tour de force of data. It really shows you the power of data and kind of illustrating a problem and opportunities. It was, I especially enjoyed your call out of Madagascar. Duke has long had a commitment to research and fieldwork in Madagascar. Through our Duke Lemur Center for the past 55 years, we've had a number of researchers over there. And so issues like water, sanitation, hygiene are of such critical importance over there. And I also, despite the sobering news, I especially appreciated the notes of optimism and the sense of progress that we have seen. And I agree, we have such a long way to go. And for me, part of that hope is innovation. What are the opportunities for innovation in identifying, supporting, and scaling, real approaches that work? I have a favorite quote from Einstein here. It says, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And I think that's true in so many areas of the Sustainable Development Goals, including SDG 6. We saw the Millennium Development Goals not be obtained, and here we are today looking ahead to 2030 and what can we accomplish. So I particularly am hopeful that we can identify innovations that are working and scale them up. And that's really the whole focus of our work here with UNICEF through the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator. We've long had a focus at Duke on social entrepreneurship and innovation, especially through some work of a colleague of mine who I'll mention in a moment. And we really have a broad view of social entrepreneurship as a process of pursuing innovative, sustainable solutions to critical social problems, or recognizing and resourcefully pursuing opportunities to create social value. We've identified, supported, researched, learned, taught about so many social entrepreneurs around the world. Obvious ones that come to mind: Muhammad Yunus, the pioneer of microfinance; Wendy Kopp, whose Teach for America has now scaled to Teach for All. Domestically here in the U.S., Jeffrey Canada, whose Harlem Children's Zones really, and so many replications of that, intend to achieve impact for children from cradle to college and career. One of our favorite authors, David Bornstein, says that what business entrepreneurs are to the economy, social entrepreneurs are to social change. They're the driven, creative individuals who question the status quo, exploit new opportunities, refuse to give up, and remake the world for the better. Now, I came to Duke in the beginning of 2005 to work with a colleague, Greg Dees. Professor Dees, who sadly passed away in 2013, was really the kind of academic pioneer of this field of social entrepreneurship. He really defined the field in many ways in terms of the research and study. And basically, when you think of a social entrepreneur, he boiled it down to a simple definition that a social entrepreneur creates a venture to maximize social value. They innovate, adapt, and learn as any entrepreneur would, but they act boldly, not being constrained by lack of resources. And then they hold themselves accountable for that social value creation, drawing across all kinds of sectors and organizational forms. He used to say that social entrepreneurs are the change agents of the social sector. They seek to create systemic change and sustainable improvement. And that's the kind of thinking we've tried to embody here in our accelerator. One of the things that Greg always said is that he saw social enterprises as learning laboratories for society. He really felt that social enterprises could identify solutions to scale up. When we think about a social enterprise, we're talking about all kinds of organization. They might be nonprofit or for-profit, but whose primary objective is to address a social challenge or serve social needs through a sustainable and potentially scalable approach. They blend methods from what we would traditionally think of as business or commercial or philanthropy and social, and they measure their success in terms of impact. So a social enterprise can often, sometimes craft more effective, sustainable, or scalable solutions, whether they're gathering in the ground data, insights, and perspectives, or prototype testing and refining innovations, increasing desirability, feasibility of innovations they design, developing promising business models is so important, and mobilizing resources, experimenting with new pathways to scale, and finally engaging the public sector, other institutions, and leveraging ecosystems to increase impact. And we've been so thrilled to work with UNICEF and UNICEF's commitment to innovation. Here we have an alumnus of ours, Kidus Asfa, who was at a conference a few years ago as we began to launch the accelerator. We were excited to see him on stage describing the importance of innovation to UNICEF. And he was saying that innovation at UNICEF is doing something new or different that adds value. Now, it turns out Kidus just departed UNICEF within the last 2 weeks to launch his own social venture in Africa. So we're so excited to watch his progress. So through our accelerator, you've heard a little bit earlier from Kellyanne, from Selwyn, that what we're trying to do is to identify, assess, develop, and build and scale innovations for children, facing some of the most pressing challenges around the world. We're trying to bridge the gap between on the ground, grassroots innovations and large scale humanitarian agencies such as UNICEF. So each year we select a group of innovations with the potential to scale, and then we provide them with support over a 2-year period. That includes skill building, coaching, mentoring, scaling grants, and ecosystem building. We engage our networks to provide skill building webinars and tools to improve innovators' business and impact. And we provide coaching and mentorship. And we also, where possible, match students to work with as interns and consultants and so forth. And so we're currently in the process of wrapping up our support for our first cohort, which consists of 6 social enterprises who are graduating this week. So we're so excited about that. And we're ramping up support to our second group of social enterprises, also working across Africa. You can see here kind of the areas and focus of our 2 cohorts. Our first cohort focused on menstrual health and hygiene and includes teams that have innovated on menstrual products, created apps focused on menstrual and sexual health, and an animation studio that produces stories on health and well-being. And now our inclusive sanitation and hygiene cohort, which just started this past May, includes last mile distribution of toilets, urban sanitation and waste management, child-friendly baby stations in urban centers, soap products made from discarded commercial soap, a simple hand washing station for schools, and a backpack with a solar panel complete with menstrual products for girls to take to school. It's been so exciting to work with such a wide range of innovators, each focusing on different areas of critical challenge with different business models, different innovations. And let me tell you, these innovators are incredible forces for change. Incredibly talented, dedicated. They have become rising change makers in working on the front lines of sustainable development. So together with UNICEF, we're working to scale their impact and create tangible progress toward SDG 6. So I think it's time that we should let you meet some of these amazing innovators. We're going to have a brief panel here to let you meet 4 of our innovators and get a sense of who they are and their background. So in a moment here, joining us, we have 2 from our first cohort, 2 from our second cohort. We have Hyacinta Untuyeko from Kasole Secrets. We have Dr. Felix Menyagote of the Tanzania Young Eco Protection. We'll have Ian Tarimo of Thai Tanzania, and then we'll have Jamila Mayanja of Smart Girls Foundation Uganda. So please join me wherever you are. A little round of applause for our panelists. Come on up, gang, come on up. Thank you so much for joining us, our panelists. We really appreciate you taking time this afternoon, this evening, where you are. And half of you are relatively new to our accelerator. You've just started here in the last 5 or 6 months, and then half of you are about to graduate. So it's nice to have a real mix of our panelists here together, and you'll be moving on to bigger and grander adventures, but we're here in the wings to cheer you on and be a resource and continue to keep you in the fold and of our network. And so what I'd love to do is give each of you a few moments to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit more about the important work that you're doing, briefly about your social enterprise. And then what we'll do is I have a couple questions that will kind of probe your responses and get a little better sense of not just your work, but also the value of the accelerator for you. So with that, why don't we start first with Hyacinta, if you don't mind. Hyacinta, can you tell us a little bit more about your work?
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt, and hi, everyone. My name is Hyacinta Njeko. I'm a social entrepreneur, so I joined entrepreneurship immediately after my university, and I founded the Catholic Secrets Company 2013. And Catholic Secrets bring innovative solutions to the menstrual health crisis, and we do it in 3 ways. So number one, we develop and distribute bamboo-made disposable sanitary pads. The second thing we are doing is we develop menstrual health curriculum and training tools. And we run menstrual health education programs in schools, which includes boys and men alongside girls. And the third thing that we are doing is we encourage menstrual health innovation within communities by working with local organizations, social enterprises, and the international organization. So in a nutshell, that is what we are doing here. We are available in Tanzania, East Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that brief introduction to the work that you do. It's been so exciting to work with you. Let's continue to allow some introductions here. So how about Dr. Felix? Would you mind tell us a little bit more about your work?
Hello, my name is Felix Manyogote, and I'm a co-founder and CEO of Tanzania Young Eco Protection. And this is a youth-led social enterprise that's committed to pioneering solutions to water and climate challenges. And currently we have designed and developed a low-cost hand washing stations for schools. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction, Dr. Felix. How about Ian? Tell us a little bit more about TIE Tanzania.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. My name is Ian Tarimo. I'm the co-founder and executive director of a social enterprise called TIE Tanzania. And basically, our role is to give beef to the so-called skeleton, which in this matter are the data and facts. So we use storytelling and media technology to inspire behavior change. And as we all know, the power of story can change things that can be hard to be absorbed by a common citizen. So we use that innovative way to complement other programs so that we can have that lasting change, but we can also be able to engage different stakeholders from different backgrounds. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ian. How about Jamila? Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do at Smart Girls Foundation?
Hi, Matt. Hope you can hear me. My name is Jamila Mayanja, founder and team leader at Smart Girls Foundation Uganda. And at Smart Girls, we empower young women and girls to believe in themselves, but to live a sustainable and healthy lifestyle. We innovated what we call the Smart Bag, a bag that helps young girls in school to improve their menstrual health sanitation, but also to give them access to renewable energy to be able to read their books at night. So the bag, we recycle the bag from plastic waste from the slum areas. And also we make sure it comes with menstrual health management information to help them keep up with their menstrual health. And also it has a solar panel that can help them light them and also be able to the toilets and also at home. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jamila. So for our audience, you can see what a wide range of different social enterprises we have involved. And these are just 4 of our 13 in our first 2 cohorts. So let me ask you, for all of our panelists, you're doing such amazing work with such great passion and dedication. I'm curious, as you've been involved in the Duke-UNICEF Accelerator, how has your work evolved in some way? Or how do you hope it will evolve as you seek to scale your impact and have even greater impact? So tell us a little bit about how your participation, et cetera, has caused you to think about the evolution of your work. And so maybe we'll just go back through the same order that we started first. So Hyacinta, how about for you? How has your work evolved over the last now year and a half or so?
Yeah, so I've been in the accelerator for 1.5 years. And as you might be aware, we social entrepreneurs or social enterprises, we always struggle with funding for research development and be able to scale up our innovation. So it was the same case to my organization. We always have the running capital, but we really didn't have funding for us to invest in things like research and marketing, but as well as development. And this contributed us to grow very slowly. But after joining the accelerator, we were able to get the funding. And this funding, for us, it gave us a very good starting point into investing into market research, trying to understand our customers and trying to understand what they really need, but as well to strengthen our leadership structure in the organization. And through this accelerator, we were able to achieve a number of things. The first thing that we were able to achieve was we were able to install systems that track staff performance, but also projects management as well. And another thing that we were able to achieve through the accelerator was we were able to conduct a market survey, which informed us on how our customers would like to be communicated on menstrual health products, something which has really improved our marketing strategies. The other thing, we were able to restructure our initiative of selling pads at subsidized price in 6 public secondary schools. So those are the things that I could say the accelerator has really managed to help us achieve, but also we were able to grow our business by 50% in June 2021. Though now with difficulties in supply chain, our customer base has been gone down to 20%, and we are expecting it to keep going much more down if the situation won't change very soon. And another thing that I would really thank the accelerator is their skills in matching us with the mentors. I think I got the very good mentors who will have the skills and capacity to answer my challenges for that period of 1.5 years. And all these things were possible because of their good direction and support. Yeah, so those are the things that I can quickly highlight.
Thanks, Hyacinta. I mean, for you in the first cohort, literally COVID hit just as you were joining the accelerator, and things were changing on the fly. We had hoped to have this conference, for example, in a live in-person format, bringing you to Duke's campus, and we literally were all going through just the change and turmoil of COVID. So I think if anything, the last 18 months, social entrepreneurs around the world and on the panel here have had to learn how to think quickly, right? And pivot and often think in scenarios. And I think you've proven that in so many ways, Hyacinta. And before I invite Dr. Felix to share about how his work has evolved, I just want to remind the audience that you're welcome to post some questions in Q&A, and I'll have another question after this one, and then we'll kind of draw on audience questions. So feel free to post questions in the Q&A button on Zoom. So Dr. Felix, tell us a little bit about how has your work evolved? Now, you've been in the accelerator for about 6 months now. How have things evolved in those past 6 months for you?
Okay, thank you very much, Matt. It's almost about 6 months now being on the accelerator. And the first thing, actually, I would think the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator has been a great platform that has broadened my WASH advocacy skills, because we have been going through different mentorship programs, and through the mentorship programs, I managed to broaden out, to improve better my WASH advocacy skills. Aside that, I have also managed, or have also been able to improve better our project impact and scaling strategies, as well as restructuring our business models and ensure our enterprise sustainability, as well as expanding our partnership links. So also the learning that I got from the accelerator has helped me achieve better results through positive creativity, better decision making, as well as strategic planning. The experience from the accelerator has also helped me manage my team with more vision, rigor, and discipline, and has formed a very strong united team to scale and impact for a wide population. Aside that, through the program, we have got an opportunity to connect with like-minded people who are founders and young leaders of different social enterprises. And we have got an opportunity to learn from each other and get an opportunity even to share our projects, share our challenges, and even get an opportunity to network. And even we are now working forward to develop joint ventures. So this has been all great, achieved through the accelerator. And aside that, we also got an opportunity to receive a grant from the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator, of which it's now helping us to scale. We are now working to scale our project, and we are looking now to impact a wide population. So with the grants, we are also working to improve now our system management, our data system management, as well as our office management. So this is how the accelerator has managed to help us, and this is how it has managed to reach a wide community, as well as also improving better the work we are doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Felix. And to underscore a couple points you made there, one of the things that's, I think, kind of unique about the Duke-UNICEF Innovation Accelerator compared to a number of other accelerators out there is we really see ourselves as a learning accelerator. Obviously, being based at an institution of higher learning, such as a university, where there's a real emphasis on learning. And so part of that learning is the cohort learning from each other and looking for opportunities for synergy, for even greater impact together. And also we hope to learn from you, what's working, what's not working, and use that to inform our own kind of research practice and teaching. And so it's such a critical function of the accelerator. And I also want to share one other point, which was you mentioned about developing your skills for advocacy. We sponsored some research a number of years ago looking at nonprofit social enterprises that had been founded in the previous 30 years and had some of the greatest impact. And it turns out that many of those enterprises had found that to have great impact, you need to pair direct service with advocacy. Now, not necessarily 50-50, but it turns out many enterprises who had started in direct service found that by adding advocacy work in, it helped them increase impact or decrease barriers to impact. And others that had started with advocacy found that by adding direct service in, it really sharpened their advocacy message. And indeed, many social entrepreneurs have gone on to become true movement builders, expanding beyond their own ventures to really build movements committed to change, such as the SDGs. So wonderful messages there, Dr. Felix. Really appreciate those from you. How about Ian? Can you tell us a little bit about how things, again, you're in the first cohort, so you've been around for more than a year and a half. How have things evolved for you since you're joined the accelerator?
Thank you, Matt. I don't know. I think maybe I need like 1 hour of just saying how much you have evolved through this program, because a lot has happened with the kind of the year that you went through. I'll just say that on behalf of Team TAI, we are very thankful because I think you played a key role to make us use the hardship of 2020 with this pandemic to turn it to be something useful for ourselves. I was trying to prioritize what I should say now. I just remember when we had this COVID, and at that time we were all in this preparation to come to US, and then we have this COVID and lockdown, and we are terrified. And we are having this session we are supposed to do, and Matt and your team, you change the gears, and you say, let's talk about COVID. Are we going to be scared and panic and not function, or should we find ways to deal with this? And with the same attitude, it was not a simple conversation because, to be honest, we are freaking out because we don't know what's happening tomorrow. I remember that I was also missing sleep. But with that conversation, we gained the confidence to go back to the team and we asked the same question. Yes, there is COVID-19. Should we be the one frightened and seize, or should we do something about it? We are storytellers. Can we tell a story about it as happening? And with that, we are able to produce an animated music video to raise awareness about COVID for the language that young people can understand. Because I remember at that time, there was this technical language from UNICEF and other WHO, stay at home. But the people we serve, for them, home is a place to sleep before going tomorrow out to get food. Otherwise, you can't stay in. So we're like, because of that, can we also have their content so they understand what we're talking about? And I remember we did that. Instead of when you are scared, you go down to think about how best can you produce that content. And it turned out to be very positive. I remember because of that content, in the middle of that, there was also a competition of the most innovative, like it was called like a COVID-19 Innovation Challenge. And by that time, we're having that challenge, you already have a content that is making an impact in the community. And we won among 4 organizations in Tanzania that is using innovation to tackle challenge. So I will say that has been kind of a sum up on how we are able to turn challenges into something fruitful by looking at it from different angles and take advantage of the situation. Sanitation has not been something that the community take it very serious. I remember 6 years ago, we are teaching children how to wash hands and people used to laugh at us. But with COVID, it's like it brought all things together. Now, because of this, people, when they have the personal hygiene, it's also somehow affecting even now what's the mandate of UNICEF. So I would say it's a mix of sweet and sour with all these ups and downs. But it has been rewarding. My team has grown from 15 people to 32 people. We have been moving from just reaching, producing only animation, but realizing that there are people we are not reaching now to add radio shows, to add comics, to having USSD for those who cannot access to materials online. So I would say with the experts, with the network, we have been able to look at these issues in more depth, I would say, but not just depth, even in terms of how more can we reach people that we never thought before, like those who cannot access internet, those who don't have electricity. Can we also take advantage of the public transport where there are TVs and they normally show random videos? Can we take that? And we took those chances as a trial, and we have really seen that the organization has grown, but also have been more impactful. So that's why I said in like 30 minutes, but let me end there. Thank you very much.
That's amazing. I mean, you're really demonstrating that kind of entrepreneurial mindset to innovate ways to get, make sure those amazing stories you tell are accessible to a wider audience. That's so wonderful. So how about Jamila, that question to you also, how have you changed, evolved over, and you're in the second cohort, so it's been 6 months, but just curiosity, how have things evolved for you since joining the accelerator?
Me, I have to say, Matt, this accelerator has been mind-blowing to myself and my team. Going through it, it found us, as I told you, it found us at a time when our innovation was being asked for in other countries to scale, and we didn't know how to actually get there and how to scale it. And the innovation led us to understand and appreciate and learn how to be able to go about affiliations, how to go about partnerships, how to go about advocacy. I'm just from Ghana, speaking from the youth summit there, just because the accelerator has increased my awareness and my credibility towards the people all over Africa. So it has given us more opportunities, and the mentorship that we've gotten from the fact that as much as we're very successful in Uganda with our smart bag, but we're measuring our performance very well. So the mentorship, when it came to M&E through the accelerator, has helped us understand how we can even grow more impact within the country and even far wide. The mentorship we got, the coaching we are getting from our legalization, making sure everything to do with our bags is well copyrighted and set. And this has come from the awareness of the accelerator. The fact that I've started conversations with all the people who wanted to scale with me was because of the accelerator. The people that I'm meeting, I can go on and on. The partnerships we're making within the people in the accelerator, our fellow members, with Sakode, like it's amazing at how we are intertwined and how one platform can get young people who are thinking alike and give them the potential to work together. At the summit, when I was at the youth summit in Ghana, one of the young people told me, I've seen you on the website of Duke-UNICEF and I love the work that you're doing. Could you actually come and scale in Ghana? And I'm like, that is a conversation. I need to take my pathway. I need to go through my business canvas model, because I've learned to do it in the right way, but not to just rush it. So it's already been 6 months for us, but for us, it's been like an eternity. And I would say, as much as the hyacinths are graduating, I would say, please keep me there. Let me not graduate yet and first still keep on reaping from the accelerator. So I'm very, very grateful to being part of this journey. Thank you.
Oh, how wonderful. What great comments, Jamila. I mean, to pull a few things out, your intentional, thoughtful strategy that you're considering for scale, not just go after every opportunity, but we got to figure out which are the right opportunities. And also, you alluded to the beginning that there are many pathways to scale. We can scale deep and serve and have even greater impact with those we're already serving. We can scale out or scale wide and serve more in other locations or even other countries. And we can scale through systems change. Sometimes it really takes an ecosystem to scale impact, whether it's policy work or other sorts of system works. That's so inspiring. Now we've gotten a couple of questions from the audience, and one Ian actually already started to answer, which was, has COVID presented? Let's think appreciatively, like opportunities. Has COVID presented any opportunities for you to have greater impact in any way? So for example, Ian mentioned that they were able to produce a video. So on the positive side, has COVID led to any positive opportunities for you? Would anyone like to answer that? How COVID has been presenting opportunities for you for greater impact?
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Here in Uganda, schools are still closed. So with us, smart bags, we have the bag comes with a component where the girls put their unused reusable pads. And also when they get to school and they don't have where to wash them from, they all dispose them, they put them in the bag. So the bag is more like a menstrual health management for them. But why it was really, and it has a component where they keep the school books when they get to school. But now for 2 years, because of COVID, schools are being closed. So it has led us to get an opportunity now we are innovating to add a solar powered learning tablet within the bag, so that even when schools are closed in Uganda here, they have an opportunity to get access to learning, and they're not stuck home without learning. But it has also given us opportunities because all over the globe, people understand the need for menstrual hygiene, the need that something like COVID can cause you home. What about something like what the girl goes through every day without her saying, no, today I don't want to menstruate, or today I don't have pads, do not menstruate, and things like. So it has given us an opportunity for people to see that we need to solve these problems. We need to make sure we help out the way we can to make sure everybody is successful and girls are actually educated. Because when you educate a girl, you're educating a nation.
Yeah, that's such an important message, Jamila. During the first cohort, one of the themes that emerged was, periods don't stop for pandemics. So if anything, the importance of understanding menstrual health and hygiene has only been obviated even to a greater extent, and that has come out so clear. Dr. Felix, you had your hand up, and I think probably Hyacinth you want to answer too. But Dr. Felix, do you want to share how COVID has presented opportunities for you?
Yes, Matt. So for us, COVID didn't affect much our work, but I can say COVID-19 is like spotlighted our work. We are all aware that WHO recognizes hand washing hygiene as one of the basic steps on the prevention of COVID-19. Among the precautions of prevention mentioned by WHO included hand washing, hygiene with the running water. So with our enterprises, we have been working to develop a low-cost foot pedal operated hand washing stations for schools. And our hand washing stations are foot pedal operated to make sure that we minimize contamination, that one can operate the hand washing station without contaminating it or without touching it. Just crutches a pedal and it releases liquid, soap, or water. So this kind of innovation has brought a great attention now in our country, and it has created a great a great attraction among different people on how the technology work is. So it's through this COVID now we are finding that the demand for our innovation or the demand for our hand washing station has increased, and the demand is high. And this is why we thank the Duke-UNICEF for the grant that has provided us, and we are working hard now to make sure that we reach more beneficiaries. So this is how the COVID has just chipped in and make it for the country to realize on the need for proper hand washing. So that's how it works with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Felix. So true. We need to recognize and innovate in the area of hand washing, and you're leading the way in that. Jacinta, I got the sense that you wanted to respond to that question too.
Yeah. So for me, I would say COVID, despite the fact it brought some bad seasons to my business, but I could say that personally, COVID has really changed my perspective towards things online, the digital, all these things, because before that, I wasn't really a person who could waste much of my time into the internet. I was more into doing things physical, analog, all these kind of things. But with COVID, it kind of shifted my mindset and started exploring more opportunities into internet and learn, but also connect with the rest of the world. And another thing I could say with our programs in schools, and especially when it comes for the menstrual health. So Tanzania, we had a very short lockdown for schools, which was around maybe 3 months. And after that, everything was back to normal, up to date. But again, we could see a very big change in toilets, girls' toilets, especially, and not only girls' toilets, I could say the whole school sanitation system. Like the thing that seems like impossible to be accomplished by schools. By the time we went back after COVID, we could find hand washing stations. We could find school using soap. So all these things, dustbins, these are the things that you never find in school. So you would find like these things have been back in place. And we understood that, okay, so things are possible if also the government puts a serious push. Because at this time, the government was real on top of it. And all the schools adhered to it. They did not tell that we don't have money. They not say that, our students are not keeping these things, but they put all these things, and I could say that those are the benefits in a way for COVID-19. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent point. I mean, in this case, it took a pandemic to underscore the importance of this area, right? Ian, you were going to share. You want to share something?
Yes, I think when it comes to the work we do, I already said, we are storytellers, so we have so many stories to tell. That's just one area that we have seen, and the demand of content has increased. So I don't want to go that route of like work-wise, because professional-wise, because everyone knows that it brought opportunity for us. But I wanna just say something that I didn't want to say, but no one said it. I think I should just say it because maybe it touched me personally. With COVID-19, it has reminded us that we are human beings. So it brought a moment to say, you know what? As much as we are doing all this work, the people we work to are human beings, and we need to be grateful for the life we have. Because before, people could somehow take for granted the life that we have, because maybe we are not seeing the rate of death we have seen in this past year. So I would say, in terms of the work you do, the things you prioritize when you wake up in the morning, the type of project you choose and partnership, somehow they are affected by knowing that it's not about running here and there, but to be intentional and to have that, like you treat people with more care, and you become more, the level of empathy has risen. And I think it's something that's actually what we are supposed to do at first place. Like when you work with people, your team members, your partners, it's not just about work. It's also important to wish them well and to try your level best to not to put them in danger, So I would just say that one of the opportunities as a team, we became closer, we became more caring to one another. We are also being challenged to understand, like there's life, and it's important to take care of your team and your partners and make sure that you don't, put people in danger. If there's COVID, you can't just because you want numbers organize a big gathering without taking precautions, because you might be solving one problem and creating bigger problems. So all that all that situation made us to be more aware and more intentional and more strategic. If there's a need to do something without making people come together, don't do it. You only do it when it's necessary. And when you do it, still you need to think of all the precautions. So one thing that we have done, which we didn't have before, for instance, safeguarding police. How do we make sure that our beneficiaries are not in danger when we work with them? How do we ensure that the team members are safe? So all that maybe before could take for granted, but the pandemic has reminded us that that's how it's supposed to happen, and I think we should not forget.
What an important message to share, Ian. I know that you and other innovators in your teams have experienced loss, profound loss in the recent months through the pandemic. And I think it's such an important message to drive home, and the importance of empathy, right? Empathy must be at the center. We're all humans. We're all in this human family together. We are almost out of time for our panel. We've had a few great questions brought up in the Q&A, I know, but what I wonder is, as we close out here, part of the theme that has been at the heart of this accelerator is kind of really identify and support innovations and the importance of innovation, new ways, novel ways of addressing critical needs. And so maybe it's a closing brief comment from everyone. Do you have any thoughts on why you feel innovation needs to be an important part of the toolkit? Many other efforts are needed as well, obviously, but why is it that innovation is going to be so critical in really moving the needle on the SDG 6 from your perspective? Anyone like to answer that as we round out our panel? Why is innovation important from your perspective as we address SDG 6?
But for me, I always say, when I tell the girls that I work with and why I do innovate, it's not to innovate for me, but to innovate with the beneficiaries. It's exactly what the Duke-UNICEF Accelerator is about. Innovate with the beneficiaries, design thinking. It creates a new way of solving the problems, mostly in WASH and sanitation. It makes it a fresh way of changing the narrative. Because if the old is not working, so that's the use of innovation, to look for new solutions that can absolutely solve the problems that is happening in WASH and sanitation. So the importance of innovation is to really give a fresh way of solving problems, but to absolutely make sure they're absolutely solved. And really, it gives us a chance to understand and work with the beneficiaries to make sure we are giving them the right sense of innovation that can benefit them to solve the problems they're actually going through. So that's what I would say. And that's why I love to innovate. And every time with all the things that I do in my work, I'm always asking for feedback to see how much I could make it better. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Jamila. And I could say you do live that commitment. I've observed that in our discussions and coaching sessions. And you brought up the importance of design thinking. As we all know, empathy needs to lie at the heart of design thinking. We can't parachute in with solutions. We need to really understand problems from the perspective of those who are facing those problems and hopefully co-create solutions. So thank you, Jamila. Would any of our other panelists like to share? Do you have a thought or two about why innovation needs to be such an important part of the SDG 6?
Yes, I would just want to add a little bit that for me, innovation is about making the impossible possible. With the COVID-19, if we didn't have innovation from Zoom to create this platform we are using now, it means this meeting was not possible. But regardless of the COVID-19, because someone had to take time to make this platform, we are able to do this meeting. I'm doing meeting from my home office, and you're in the US. It's possible because someone did innovative work. So for me, innovation is very important because with all the problems we have, if we use innovation, we can change that status quo. And I believe innovation, that's something everyone should embrace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. And yeah, in an odd way, this pandemic has brought us closer together through Zoom. I think we will never go back fully to the way we were before. We're gonna harness the power of the virtual world to a greater extent than we ever did. Jacinta, did you want to share?
Yeah. So for me, I could say that innovation is very important because it challenges our old way of doing things and give us with new insights and the new ways of approaching whatever current situation is there. And I really liked, Matt, when you were doing your introduction, you gave this quote from Albert Einstein, which say that we cannot we cannot use the same thinking to solve the problems. That insight that you cannot use the same thinking to solve the problem we have created. And that means we have to be innovative. We don't, like, if we really need to consistently moving forward, we really need to look back and evaluate, analyze the solution that we have created. And as you know, the world is growing, the technology is improving every single day. So without innovation, that means this world will be where it is. Like, if it has been created 2000 years ago, then it will be there, never going anywhere forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I said I once saw a sticker that said "Innovate or die," right? That the world is full of change, and the only thing that is unchanging is change. And innovation looks for opportunities in that change to address it even more effectively. Dr. Felix, any thought that you want to share on the importance of innovation when it comes to SDG 6?
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Matt. I stand with the colleagues, but I would like to quote Ian. On the beginning, he spoke that innovation is the way of seeing things in different angles. And I believe, aside innovation, technology is a tool that we might use it while enhancing innovation. So the best thing now, I'm doing now a combination of Jacinta, I'm doing now a combination of Ian and Jamila. It's very important to design with the users, or it's very important when thinking of innovation or technology to include the beneficiaries, to make sure that the beneficiaries are comfortable with the innovation we are working with. Because I remember there is a certain place where certain people just created something in an innovative way, but the beneficiaries couldn't accept it or couldn't enjoy it, and we are not comfortable in using the product. So it's very important when thinking of innovation, thinking of technology, to involve the beneficiaries, to design with the beneficiaries in the process. And this will ensure them comfortable on using the product or comfortable on being involved on tackling specific challenges. Thank you.
What a wonderful way to end. You know, it's so true that the heart of what we're doing, there is someone at the other end who is facing a problem and who is looking to resolve that problem. And at the end of the day, the work that we do through the accelerators is focused on children, youth, and the young people of the world. And at the end of the day, that's who we're here to serve, and that's the beneficiaries. So I know we had a couple other questions from audience. My apologies, we didn't get through to them. I encourage you to follow up with our innovators, browse their websites, learn a little bit more about their motivations. And I think in some of the other panels coming up this week, we'll have opportunities to talk about collaboration and so forth. So please join me, the audience, in thanking our wonderful panelists this morning, this afternoon, this evening. We so appreciate your thoughts and insights, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we just have a few moments to close out, gang. And so I want to share with you that this is just the opening of a full week of activities that we have planned for you. We have amazing speakers and panels throughout the week. We will have, you're going to see here, panels on a variety of topics coming up: art of selling WASH, staying lean and COVID resiliency, market-based private sector engagement and sanitation, careers in social innovation with a panel of alumni tomorrow night. On Wednesday, we have innovative finance and WASH and navigating uneven path to social entrepreneurship. Thursday, lean prototyping through pioneering partnerships, and the catastrophic nexus of climate and WASH. And we especially hope you're able to join us on Friday for a pitch event. Our innovators are going to be pitching live, sharing about their innovations in a great audience of practitioners and funders, investors, and others. And so we really want you to join us for those pitches. And so for each of these, you just need to register for the event. So you can get the link to the Zoom session. So please make sure you see, I think my colleague Taylor has just posted now, yes, in chat, you'll see there's a link that you can click on that will take you to the registration for each of these events. And one of the things we really value so much about this accelerator is bringing diverse communities together to think about and address really important problems. And so we really value you spending time with our speakers and panels this week so that they can benefit from your questions and comments, and we can all expand our thinking together and really build this kind of a learning community that we've done here. So again, thank you to our panelists for our panel. Thank you especially for our speakers today, beginning with Selwyn Razor and then Kellyanne Naylor and Tom Slayer. You really set the stage for our discussions this week and kind of brought to our attention the importance of the problems that we're addressing. And so appreciative of your time here this week. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you, everybody here on the audience. We look forward to connecting with you later this week. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thanks a lot.